1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. I'm Justin. I'm here in studio with my sidekick, executive assistant by day, Jennifer Carter.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
You can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We are really excited to be back. It's a beautiful day here in Austin. Summer's in full swing. We got back from our vacations just this last week, and we're thrown back into the mess of helping our clients and all the things we need to do during the week. So we're back in the full swing, so we're happy to be back. You know, just thinking about shopping for, the swimsuits, shopping for jeans, shopping for these clothing items, I really thought of an analogy. When we talk about retirement planning, one size doesn't always fit all. And you've probably had one of those, I know I do, pair of jeans that you just never wanted to throw away because they just fit right. They're so hard to find.
Yes.
You go from store to store and eventually you find the one that fits, and you just wonder why all manufacturers can't make the jeans that fit you. Right?
Yes.
And when you find a pair that doesn't fit, you wonder, is it my body? Is it what is it about me that's wrong? Right. And that's what I do. And so when you find a pair that fits, it just seems like, it's just too good to be true.
Right.
And, investment advice is a lot like that. And I think that there's been a trend, at least even this week and over the last, couple of years, I've heard numerous people come into the office and just say, you know what, I'm just tired of somebody telling me what they're going to do with my money before I tell them about myself and what I want to have my money do for me, what my wishes and my goals are. So Eric Scott believes this is also the case. And this is why he wrote his book, The Five Financial Crossroads, Unlocking the Secrets to Your Retirement Journey. When it comes to finances, deep down, one size doesn't fit all. We know that. You have unique needs, desires, and dreams, just like everyone else, but they're unique. Your income level, savings, risk, comfort, debt, and preparedness for the future is exclusive to you. Today, you'll learn about the 5 financial crossroads, decisions that you'll be making based upon your own life, your dreams, and your money. You're not a statistic. One size doesn't fit all. And today, it's all about your retirement journey. So we're so excited to have Eric Scott with us today, talk about his book and talk about those 5 financial crossroads. On vacation, we took a very expensive Disney cruise. Probably not a very good investment. My kids thought it was a great investment. Of course, all the soft serve ice cream you can eat.
Oh, yummy.
Disney movies playing on the Jumbotron there in front of the pool. I mean, it's just like kid heaven, right?
Right.
There were people there, of course, groups, grandparents, children, and multi-generations that go for these big family outings. And the ship was just amazingly immense and immaculate. They asked me the question, was it worth the money? I'm still debating that, but it was a great cruise. We went to the Caribbean. We did a 7-night deal. So it's kind of one of those, hopefully once in a lifetime things that we do with our kids, but it may happen again. I don't know. In retirement, you may want to take some cruises, and you may, even though it may not be a sound financial, you're going to get your money back, right? But the enjoyment you get, money's meant to really be spent. And, that's true too for all of us. And so we've got to budget those things in. We've got to have that part of our plan. And if your goal is to travel the world and you love cruise ships and they're pretty awesome, you may want to have the budget and means to be able to do that. And if that's your goal, we can help you do that. You've got to put together a plan that works for you and your family. But, when it comes to spending your money, you're the captain of your ship and you decide who's going to spend your money. And if you don't have that figured out or have a plan for that, someone else is probably going to end up spending your money. You may not take those cruises. You may not do that traveling you wanted to do, or gift that money you wanted to gift in your lifetime because you're just too afraid to part with it because you don't know how to take the proper amount of income from the assets you've got to not outlive your money. I know that's often the case with many, many people that I work with. What's interesting is we've got a number of articles we want to talk about in our news and views segment later on, so you're going to stay tuned for that. But just a sneak peek, Carnival Cruise Line is attracting what they call voluntourism. So if you wanted to be on a cruise, but you wanted to feel like you were giving back, Carnival Corp, the world's largest cruise line operator, is introducing a new brand, Fathom, aimed at customers who want to save the world while sailing the seas. So you can do both. You can enjoy yourself and help other people, right? So retirement is anything you want to make of it. We just, as financial planners, want to help you get to your destination. I can't help you with your dreams and your goals. You have to have those dreams and goals. But just know that really, whatever your desire is, there's some path to get there. And with a proper planning, with a planner that looks after your best interest, you can find a way to best achieve that. Maybe it's not on the Disney cruise line. Maybe it's not every month you're taking a cruise, but to some extent, you might be able to find some way to get as close to your dreams and goals with what resources you do have. So we're excited to have our guest on today, author of The Crossroads, Unlocking the Secrets to Your Retirement Journey. And Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit more about our guest?
Yeah, Eric Scott became a retirement guide in 1983. In 2012, Eric published a financial advice book, The Five Crossroads, which, by the way, we will be giving out during the show, so please continue to stay tuned. He loves spending time with his family and is active in his church, the Boy Scouts of America, and his community. He hosts a radio program every Monday at 4 p.m. on Fox News, 1450 a.m. He has appeared on local television channels such as KCSG, and he even teaches financial classes at Dixie State College.
Welcome, Eric. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this, Justin, and your time.
Well, we are excited to have you on, and thank you so much for your time, sir. I have a couple of copies of your book here that Jennifer mentioned. We are going to be giving away to our callers that call in. So if you've got a question, financial question about your retirement, a question for Eric Scott or a question for myself, feel free to give us a call at 512-390-1370. We will give you a book. This book written by Eric Scott. So, Eric, can you just give us a little sneak peek before we go to break in what makes your beliefs in your book different?
You know, it goes back to the way I was raised, and I wanted to create something really different. My mother was born and raised in Norway, and so she would tell us lots of stories. My father in a military academy, and very staunch, very strict, but said, you've got to stand for something right. And because of that in travels, I saw a lot of history. So I wanted that book to be with stories, with history, and then tie the financial in. And that's why I think it's really different, because it brings so many different areas and information in different ways in a story form that's very enjoyable to read.
Really very interesting book. Of course, we love it because in the title, there's your retirement journey. So, you know, we've got to be biased towards that. Well, anyways, we're going to be back. We got to go to a break. We're going to be back with Eric Scott here in a little bit. We're going to be talking about those 5 things that you need to know, those crossroads that you need to know that can make a difference in your life when we get back. So stay tuned for that. Again, this is Justin Fort, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370.
It seems that the wrath of the gods got a punch on the nose and it started to flow. I think I might be sinking. Throw me a line if I reach it in time. Meet you up there at the path runs
This is Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can call us live at 512-390-1370. We're giving away this book, The Crossroads, Unlocking the Secrets to Your Retirement Journey, written by author Eric Scott, financial professional. And so if you want a copy of that, give us a call. Ask a question, a financial question. We'll be happy to get you a copy of Eric's book. So we're back, Eric, and we were talking about those 5 crossroads that really everyone's got to take or one way or the other, make a decision on in their retirement. How can people use maybe your book to help prepare themselves a little bit better for something other than a one-size-fits-all retirement?
Well, thank you, Justin. One of the key things I looked at is what are the 4 areas, whatever I was hearing from people so often that they were concerned about. And when we went through the list, quite often it came up with 5. And those 5 areas can make a huge difference in people's lives, and it can make a difference in them actually enjoying retirement to the fullest. So when we designed the book, we designed it in a story form to help each person, but at the end of every chapter, there are questions to bring it out, because people get caught up in stories, which is a good thing. Like my mother always was telling us about Norway and going through the war, but they kind of sometimes lose sight of the financial information. So we put the questions in there, and these 5 crossroads are what I hear, and I bet you hear on a daily basis that individuals and families are concerned about.
Absolutely. Has anyone ever told you, just reading your book, I just had the feeling a little bit as though the book was reminiscent of A Christmas Carol?
I have not heard that one. I've heard lots of things, but thank you. That's an honor to hear that.
I thought it was very interesting. You know, you've got the ghost of Christmas past and present and future that comes and gets Scrooge and takes him around and shows him these things and teaches him lessons. And your book is kind of that way. You've got these different crossroads that this couple that you take through this storyline here with your book, they go on this path and they encounter characters. So it's a bit of a fantasy novel in a sense too, where you've got Uncle Sam actually talking to them. You've got Paul Revere. You've got Theodore Roosevelt. You've got all kinds of these historical characters talking to our stars of the book, if you will, the couple that's concerned about their retirement. And it's an interesting read, and like you said, it definitely adds some practical elements to it with, you've even got note sections in there for people to take notes as they read along.
The important thing to me was, because growing up in Virginia and Massachusetts, my mother took us to all the history sites, and I found that I love history. I love what I learn. I love what our forefathers and our presidents and many people have done. So when in writing the book, we said, how can we take this book and deal with it with history? So when you do read about Paul Revere, President Roosevelt, there's another president in there. There's forefathers. President Lincoln's in there. Mm-hmm. Many characters, they're actually explaining to the couple the importance of those crossroads. And I think that's what made it so much fun, is they're actually doing the teaching along with the guide. And we've just had great response because of that. And so they're true stories. And as you read it, realize the history part is true stories, the financial is, but it is in a story form.
Well, we probably teased this enough, so let's jump into some of those crossroads that I'm sure that everyone's wondering now what those are. So the first one, tax reduction. There's obviously someone listening that thinks they're paying way too much in taxes. Probably everyone that's listening may think that, or close to it. Can you give an example of a credit exemption or something that could, maybe they're not aware of that could help them? And
yeah, sure. I'm not a CPA, but there's a twofold in this part. And I had some people come in and before they retired, it was very interesting. They would donate money all the time, constantly be donating. And they found out in retirement they had a very good income. They were enjoying life. But the one thing they said is, our donations have gone down, but we're actually doing it in time. We're spending more time helping because we have more time. And going through their tax return and the CPA, we noticed that, well, you're donating time to the church that they go to, things like that, but we don't see any deductions on miles. And so they actually could receive deductions on miles because they were in leadership positions, they were helping in the church, some people help at the hospital. You can deduct that. Well, that was the first part, and that was a little bit of help, and every little bit helps. But the next part was they had investments dealing with interest, dividends, and the question we asked them was, are you using this as income? And they said, we're not. Well, why are you paying taxes on money if it's not used for income? They said, because that's just what we've always done. Now, the bottom line was we were able to start taking those accounts and put into tax-deferred and tax-free accounts. It lowered their taxes. The miles helped on the charities on top of it, but then all of a sudden they had more spendable income to enjoy their retirement to the fullest. And it's all about, in our book, we do use Uncle Sam. He is teaching people. Paul Revere dealing with, why we had the Revolutionary War and what took place. But bottom line with that is, what can you do? There's 7 specific areas in your tax return that will help you to reduce income taxes and enjoy it to the fullest. And if your CPA, your advisor, has not gone through that, you need to look at how can that happen.
That's always a good question to ask. Now, this is Eric Scott with Eric Scott Financial, author of the Five Crossroads, Unlocking the Secrets to Your Retirement Journey. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. I'm Justin. Remember, you can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We are giving away Eric Scott's book today for callers that call in with a good financial question. Doesn't have to be a fantastic question, but something that's relevant would be nice. And we'll be more than happy to have either Eric or myself attempt to answer your question. So Eric, saving and taxes, asking questions, this is important. There's just a couple I wanted to throw out that, just in preparing, some of the, I'm obviously not a CPA either, and you should always consult your tax planning professional tax preparer for best advice on how you can take these deductions. But, in some cases you can deduct Medicare premiums, Part B, D, and even Medigap policy premiums if you're self-employed. There's some caveats to really every deduction or exemption you can take. You just need to be aware of those. But if you're self-employed, you might be missing some of those things there. There's also lifetime learning credits up to $2,000 or 10% of qualifying higher education expenses, that could be taken every year. So if you want to go back to school, vocational training, maybe it's just for fun. You can deduct some of those expenses. Of course, there's earnings limits and things like that. So, taxes are one of those areas where it can be extraordinarily complicated, but you need to be asking these questions. Wouldn't you agree?
I would, and I think it's important that you need to be proactive. We have had people that weren't proactive, their CPAs weren't proactive, and when we would visit with them, they'd go and get proactive, and their CPA goes, oh, yeah, we can do that. So be proactive. Ask questions. What else can I do? Where do you see here in the tax return that with my lifestyle, what I'm doing, and share with your CPA, Justin, also very important, what do you want to accomplish in retirement? Because then he may be able to find some tax loopholes to help you. The more you communicate with your financial people, the more you're going to get accomplished.
Oh, we see that statistically speaking. I see that with people that come to my office that have a relationship with a good tax preparer or CPA, an estate planning attorney. Often their financial situation, they're just much in a much better position. One other thing I think is really important, one of these ideas about charity. I know I've got a lot of clients that are very charitable, very good people. I love helping great people. And, they asked me about these required minimum distributions that have to come out at age 70 and a half. And, for 2015, just so you know, you can actually take your RMD or up to $100,000 out of an IRA. You can find this on the IRS.gov, and talk to your tax preparer about it. But take that money out and donate it directly to charity and not have to pay taxes on that money. So that's another interesting little tidbit for those of you out there that are interested in being charitable and using IRA monies. You have to be over 70 and a half. There's a couple of caveats to that, but just know that there's some legacy or charitable deductions that we don't want you to miss out on either.
That's important, Justin, because you'll see people with stock and has a lot of gain in it and so forth, and there's other ways using charitable to do it with stock as well as your IRAs. And you don't have to be 70 and a half. So just understand there is so much. I mean, we could spend hours on just the tax reduction crossroad.
Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
And, I wanted to take a step back real quick and actually, some of the questions that are at the end of this first chapter in your book I really liked. Let me just ask this, and then we're going to have to go to a break. But I want you to, if you're listening right now, I want you to, of course you are listening if you just heard me say that. But I want you to ask yourself these questions, because Eric in his book here is asking you, and what notes would you take? What would you respond? Question 1 here, how many sleepless nights have you spent worrying about your retirement? If it's 1, it's too many. How long have you put off planning for your retirement? Procrastination doesn't pay. Is it too late? Never. Has it been too long? Maybe. How much longer can you afford to procrastinate? These are great questions you need to be asking yourself. Are your investments set up properly should the market prove volatile? Or it is volatile, and are you in the right position? What if taxes rise? What if interest rates plummet? You've heard these questions before. Don't stay up. And this is me speaking. I'm not reading from the book now, but I believe in asking yourself these questions. I ask my clients these questions. I love these questions, Eric. So this is important for everybody to be thinking about. You have to really think about what you want. Do you want a stress-free retirement? Do you want to be stressed out? If you're worried that you don't have a plan, get one. Call us. You can call Eric if you're close to where Eric is, and you can visit Eric. Your website there is ericscottfinancial.com. Eric could be a good resource. You can give us a call at 512-433-6492 at our office. Schedule an appointment. Come in. We do seminars. Our seminar next week's full, though, but we do have seminars maybe once a month or so, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're tired of having sleepless nights, if you're worried, and you know what? You may have a lot of money and you may still be worried. That's not a factor. The fact is we want to help you have better confidence and less stress, and knowing that you have a plan for what you want. One size doesn't fit all anymore. We're going to talk about Crossroads number 2, which is retirement income, when we get back from this break. So stick with us. Again, this is Justin Fort, Retirement Journey Talk 1370.
Till I found you. You can go the distance. We'll find out in the long run. In the long run. We can handle some resistance if our love is a strong one. Is a strong one.
This is Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can call us live at 512-390-1370. Send us questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We're visiting with Eric Scott, author of the Five Crossroads, Unlocking the Secrets to Your Retirement Journey. We just talked about Crossroad number 1, which is tax reduction. Make sure that you're taking all the reductions you can, or exemptions, credits, deductions as possible. Meet with professionals. That's kind of the recommendations, if you will, and one size doesn't fit all there either. Now, number 2 from the book, we're talking now about retirement income. So on a positive note, we all know that people are living longer. We're hearing the stories. I think there was something in Time magazine talking about how a baby now might live to be 120 or something. Mm-hmm. And so that's pretty amazing. On the other hand, it makes planning for retirement more difficult. The longer you live in retirement, the more time there is for inflation to creep up, potential tax increases, all of those things. So, Scott, can you provide an example of hope to that person who is scared to think about trying to survive on Social Security for a long period of time in retirement?
Yeah, in the retirement income crossroad, it's not just about Social Security, though. It's about income. And when you understand that, you need to make sure you plan. We talk about a three-legged stool. There's a farmer, and he's milking a cow, and he's on this stool, and he gets up and he starts teaching. And we tried to make the book really fun, and talks about the Social Security leg, where there are, as I've heard you mention, hundreds of options. And which option is best for that couple or that individual? And how do we maximize that option? Then many people will have pensions, but they are going away. We're not seeing as much or as many pensions as we did 15, 20, 30 years ago. And last but not least with that income stool, Justin, is going to be the investments, the savings. Now, when people try to rely just on Social Security, it is going to be rough, and it is, I believe, will always be there. But other people have investments, and they're looking at it saying, well, I don't have a pension, I got some investments, I've got Social Security. What we teach and what's important about the three-legged stool is financial planning being about income planning would be how do we take money from that investment plan, turn it into a private pension. That private pension says it doesn't matter what happens to interest rates, it doesn't matter what happens to the economy, it doesn't matter what happens to the market. That private pension, that Social Security check now is going to help me get through retirement. And then I also have a little bit left with investing, and I can invest the way that I want to according to my risk tolerance. But you've got to look at the stool completely. Too many people just worry about one of the legs. We teach in the story the stool, which to us is very important to recognize. You've got to look at as many areas as possible.
And I love the idea of the three-legged stool. Really, what you're saying is we've got to have some diversification to the income sources that we've got, and I wholeheartedly agree. If you're relying on one leg, it can be a wobbly stool, and that may
not want to sit on it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to sit on it. Well, you at least you got to be very conscious about how you're sitting. Then, right? You can't lean back at all. You got to be careful. It could be painful if you fall off that stool. And taking on a one-legged stool proposition into retirement may be riskier than needs to be the case. And what you're describing here, Eric, is exactly what I've studied in my master's degree training here for financial services, which is kind of like the CFP, but just in more depth. And they talk about a couple of different methods for creating retirement income or a plan for it. And one of these is that income floor type strategy, which you just kind of alluded to with respect to pensionizing some of your nest egg. We've had guests on the show in the past, from Tom Hegna to Mosh Malevsky to a variety of folks that have also talked about that. Some of these are PhD professors. So this is the science nowadays, that an income floor strategy and multi-prong approach, diversifying the tools you're using, may be better than not. And whether that's the right thing for you, I can't tell you over the radio. We can't give you advice on the radio. And remember, don't go try to do this at home when you hear things on this show. But we do encourage you to meet with a financial professional. If it's us, we're more than happy. Great. If it's someone else, make sure that they understand these concepts and these things and can put together a plan that works best for you and your family. So that's retirement income. Let's talk about Crossroad 3 now, Eric, if you will. Risk management. Can you explain, when you talk about risk, there's inevitably someone listening right now who believes that they should invest little in the market to avoid risk, but it goes much deeper than that. What are your thoughts?
It really does go a lot deeper than that, because there's so many different types of risk, Justin. And one of that is in the third crossroad, we talk about a financial house. How do you build it right? Many people think that, well, gee, when I built my own house or had someone help me build my house, you would also make sure that it was finally inspected, it was done right, you put yourself in the position to have a home that's sturdy and would be there. Well, you have to look at your assets and your money in a financial house. We talk about a foundation. That's no risk money. We talk about putting the walls up next in the book. That's low risk. Rooftop, you have to have a roof on, and in the book shows a lot of different, or goes through different designs of homes, would be moderate to high risk. But when you build a house, you have to have cornerstones, and this is where many people don't talk about it. They're always talking about the money, but that's not the only risk. You have to have emergency money in one cornerstone. The second cornerstone is if you have a home, if you have a car, if you have a boat, if you have four-wheelers, whatever you have, you better have it insured right, because if you get in an accident and you do not have that insured right, you could lose all of your assets. And you get to the third cornerstone in the book, and we talk about health care, and you've mentioned it, long-term care, home health care, medical care, assisted living, all of that plays a part. And if that cornerstone's not done right, guess what? It could destroy your financial house. Right. And last but not least is the life insurance cornerstone. We go through all of that in this chapter in the book and help people realize it's not about just the investment. We have to protect our personal assets as well, or we could lose our investments. And
you know what? Frankly, I agree with you, and I'm just frankly tired of having people that I meet with that tell me that their broker or whoever it was that they were working with, maybe even over the last 20 years, told them they should never consider long-term care insurance. They should never consider life insurance after their kids graduate college. They should never consider protecting themselves or using insurance. They should only self-insure. I'm just tired of it, because I really don't believe that that's the appropriate way for many, at least many of my clients, I should say, to allocate their resources in a most efficient way. insurance companies, they give you contracts, they put things in writing, they'll protect you. You likely have homeowners insurance for a reason, because that house is valuable. You have a fire, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Well, long-term care insurance and some of these other cornerstones that Eric's talking about, those are meant to protect the plan construction, the how you have your money invested to produce those income sources and that. But if you don't have protection, like long-term care in some cases, maybe you don't need it, but probably you do. And and so that's what's so important. And real quick, Eric, in case anyone's tuning in, I want you to know that you're listening to The Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, again, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom. You need to live life your way, all the way. We're trying to empower you and give you the ideas, the questions, and thoughts to help you improve your outlook and live the retirement of your dreams. You can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. And we're visiting with Eric Scott, author of the Five Crossroads, Unlocking the Secrets to Your Retirement Journey. We're giving away his book. Give us a call, ask us a question here at the station, and you'll get a copy of Eric's book. And so, Eric, I cut you off there. Could you just go ahead and continue with what you were thinking?
No problem. I think that people lose sight of they would never build a house on sand. They would never build a house without putting cornerstones in. And the question that I like to ask people, why would you build your financial house without having the strong foundation and cornerstones? When you take that away and you deal just with the investments in the market and you don't have a strong home, you are putting yourself at risk. When you are underinsured with home and auto or don't have long-term care, because we know 50% of people are going to need it. My father-in-law is in a care facility. I am so glad we sold him a long-term care policy 20 years ago. We just have to protect, and that's what the chapter is all about. It's actually, this crossroad has a couple chapters because it's so big, and you need to understand you've got to protect in order to enjoy retirement. And this is the last part, Justin. If you don't protect your assets and money and you pass away, and us guys usually pass away first, what have you left behind for your spouse, and what kind of risk are you putting on their shoulders? I can't do that to mine.
Absolutely. You need to know if there's a joint survivor on a pension or not. You need to know if, when you pass, if there's going to be enough money for your spouse. And you know what? Often I find, like you said, Eric, the male is the provider, earner. It's still traditionally is the case with a lot of baby boomer clients that I've got. And the husband is the one who's managing the finances, and he's concerned. I had a couple 3 weeks ago that came in, and he said, I'm really, I feel like I'm pretty comfortable being able to manage some of this stuff myself, and there's some things that, you could probably help us with for sure. We definitely need a plan, but at some point, I'm either not going to be able to continue to manage our finances the way I've been doing it. I'd like to turn the reins over to somebody else that has fiduciary duty to my wife, my family, myself. If I'm incapacitated, if it's something like cognitive impairment, or if it's death, I want to know that my wife, my posterity can look to someone that understands our wishes and can do the things that I just can't do anymore for my family. I get that often.
Very important, and I start seeing that too a lot. And it tells me that when it gets heavy on your mind, you really need to do something about it.
Absolutely. We got to go to break. We'll be back. We're going to talk about the final two crossroads, so you're really going to want to stay tuned for that. Again, this is Justin Fort, Retirement Journey Talk 1370. Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can call us live at 512-390-1370. Send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We're visiting with Eric Scott, author of The Five Crossroads, Unlocking the Secrets to Your Retirement. We're talking about those crossroads. We've gone through 3 of them so far: tax reduction, retirement income, risk management, and now we're on to debt elimination. This one is easier said than done for some, and some people will tell you that you should never have any debt at all. You should do everything, trip over yourself, pull all of your money out of your retirement accounts to pay off the mortgage. I don't know that I agree with that. And I think that it's an important thing to make sure that you're being as efficient as possible with the resources you have. Just from my understanding, in my experience with my clients, in some cases I find, debt makes sense for some people not to pay off more quickly, or to use as an arbitrage opportunity in some cases. I had a lady just the other day that came in, and she was talking about how she really enjoyed the low interest rate on her mortgage, and she wanted to continue to leave money in other positions that were growing better than that interest. And, for her, that made sense. But for other folks, it doesn't. So, talking with you, Eric, about this, can you share an instance where debt elimination, made little to no sense or made a lot of sense? What's your experience there?
In many, many cases, debt elimination does make a big importance to people retiring, and there's always a few. That's why you can't just take what one person says. You've got to do the planning. And if I stress anything and through the whole book, it's all about planning and putting things in perspective. The thing that we like talking about in the book is Mark Twain is in this chapter. And Mark Twain's in there because he had a lot of debt. He owed a lot of money. And so we had to go back into history in a lot of areas and get this information to be able to put in the book. But when you have too much debt and you're going into retirement, you are sacrificing the peace of mind, the enjoyment, and the ability to do things during retirement and have fun. That is the time to enjoy life. And a big part of the debt elimination is budgeting, Justin, because if you have to budget not only while you are in your working years, but income is different in retirement years, and budgeting is a little bit different. And we talk to people all the time about their budgets and what does it look like, and we won't even talk to them unless they bring a budget into us so that we can see how can we help them get rid of debt and enjoy their retirement to the fullest. So this chapter talks about budgeting and debt elimination, and there's lots of ways to reduce your debt. Some of the things we talk about is if you're going out to dinner, get one meal instead of two, okay? If you're going to buy something big, my wife and I one time went out and looked at a big item to purchase, and we said, well, let's think about it. Pay cash and think about it for 24 hours. If you want a big item and you think about it for 24 hours and you talk, most cases you'll never buy that item. And those are little things to get out of debt. You don't have to attack at full speed. You've got to have a plan of action and know exactly where you're going. Be aware of how you're spending your money. If you don't know how you're spending it, take 30 days, we mentioned in the book. Write everything down. You'll be blown away how you're spending your money. It's all about budgeting, and then that helps you with your debt elimination.
Absolutely. And, I fully agree with you, and I believe that if you're not having to make a payment somewhere, you're not having to take income from an account, and you're not having to pay taxes on that income or go to work to make the income earned to pay that debt or that expense. And so 99% of the time, or many times out of 100, it makes a lot of sense to be debt free. We want you to be debt free. You know what? If you want to be in debt, that's different. And that may make some sense for some people, but for the majority of people I meet with, being debt free is a big relief to them, and it really makes our jobs as retirement planners easier. And just real quick, I just wanted to throw in, I love this Stanford study that I go to every now and then, but this is done. This was a Stanford study back in 2012, longevity.stanford.edu. You can find it there, Retirement Planning in the Age of Longevity. And just to add to what you were saying, Scott, says that half of workers thought they would need 70% or less of their pre-retirement income to live comfortably in retirement, and only about 1 in 10 believe they would need 95% or more. When this is compared to the amount of income that retirees stated they currently had in retirement to support a comfortable lifestyle, the discrepancies are evident that only about 1/3 said they lived on 70% or less, while more than half stated they lived on 95% or more. So, it's probably going to be more expensive than you thought. So you can't go into retirement with more debt than is possible, really, right? So that's...
No, that is not the way to start retirement yet. We do see that once in a while, and it's sad.
Yeah, so let's move on now. Legacy planning is our final crossroad, the fifth crossroad. And I hear often from clients that they don't feel like they have enough to leave to their heirs, even though they may have quite a bit. I think really it's due to the fact that they don't have a plan in most cases for how to spend and be able to budget the resources for their needs, and then realize what they've got left over today versus waiting until 20 or 30 years from now to realize that there's that difference there. And can you share an instance where you had a client like that, and how maybe they actually were able to leave a legacy for loved ones because of proper planning?
Through proper planning, you actually have more than you probably realize as you're going into retirement, or it's during retirement. And I hear lots of times from people, well, I earned the money the old-fashioned way. I didn't get anything from my parents. I'm not going to worry about passing anything on. And you get them to start thinking, and I say, well, if you've earned and you've done well, you're probably not going to spend it all, so you are going to pass it on. And they said, well, I didn't think about that, but you're right. And I said, so with proper planning, it goes back to how do you want to pass it on? Is it charity? Is it children? What about including grandchildren? How do I do it the most tax-efficient way? And in our book, we have a story with actually one of our forefathers. And today, what he set aside to be able to pass on to charities is still going on all the way back from the 1700s. It goes back to planning, because I don't know many people that don't at least inherit something. So planning becomes really important, and that's why we try to go back as far as we could in the book, and we found a forefather that actually donated and set up some things for charities. So here we are, all the way back from the 1700s, still giving. And
reaping the benefits.
Your family.
Yeah. Yeah, and in your book, you got an interesting statistic here I'd like to maybe talk to you once we get off here about where that came from. But you said that over half the children who are left in inheritance spend 70% within the first 90 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
If that doesn't scare you into getting a proper will and estate plan, I don't know what does. And, having, living trusts, or there's all these types of tools that you can visit with an estate planning attorney about, or go online, get some help, meet with a financial professional, get these things put together so that your wishes can persist well beyond your passing, and bless the lives of your family, your friends, and the community, like Eric's talking about. Well, Eric, we're so happy that you came on today, and we of course are still going to be giving away a couple of books to people that call in, or even call into our office during the week. Now, if someone wants to get a copy, it doesn't go through us. How can folks get a copy of your book?
The simplest way is to go to Amazon.com, just type in the Five Crossroads by Eric L. Scott, and they'll see that book, and it's very simple to just purchase it from Amazon.com.
Yep, it's a delightful read. It's entertaining. It's told in a story type fashion, and I encourage you to read it, pick it up. And so, any final thoughts, Eric, that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I've just learned when people have the Five Crossroads under control and they've done the proper planning, that's when they're going to enjoy life, they're going to enjoy their families. And don't forget, as my parents have done with me, share stories so your children and grandchildren will know really who you are. And I couldn't say anything more than that, but I appreciate your time. I also, these things don't come about if it wasn't for my wife and my staff and my son, who was a big part in helping with the book. So make sure you thank everybody that helps you along the way.
Love it. Great advice from a wise gentleman. Thank you so much, Eric Scott, for coming on. Again, you can visit Eric Scott at ericscottfinancial.com. He's located there in St. George, Utah. And you can give him a call at 435-773-9444 if you'd like to get in touch with them up there in Utah. So again, thanks a lot so much for Eric. We hope to have you on maybe in the future at some point.
Love to do it. Thanks, Justin.
Great.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, talking with Eric about those crossroads, brought something into my mind. Before we get to our news and views segment, I just wanted to talk about how, in some cases, You make decisions with the financial tools that you've got, the investments that you have, and if you're trying to use something that's not designed for the purpose. I'm a very purpose-driven planner, and I think that plans ought to be fleshed out or completed or built out, if you will, based on the requirements of the plan, kind of almost like a blueprint. Our guest Eric talked about building a house and doing the foundation first and the walls and things of that nature, having the cornerstones. And this is good sound planning, method, if you will. And, that's what we do at Fort Wealth Management during the week. And we'd love for you to visit with us, come to a seminar that we have coming up. We're going to talk about how you can do that after we get back from the break here. But you can always call us at the office at 512-433-6492. I do visit with people day in and day out during the week and try to give the best advice we possibly can. So we're going to get back and we're going to talk about voluntourism, Carnival Cruise Lines. We're going to talk about how there's a seafaring couple that just created their own retirement dreams and how you can do something like that, hopefully with the proper plan in place. Again, this is Justin Fort, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370. Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can call us live at 512-390-1370 or send us questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. In our news and views segment, Carnival Cruises, we talked about that as trying to attract voluntourism. So if you were interested in doing something like that, the 7-day excursions start in April 2016 at a cost of $230 per person per day. Miami-based Carnival said Thursday in a statement, this is a while back, this is written by Chris Palmieri from Bloomberg News, in case you were wondering. The prices include an exterior cabin, meals on the ship, and supplies related to the activities which Carnival called voluntourism. The market for this type of travel is big, growing, and passionate, Carnival said in a statement. Projects will focus on education, the environment, and economic development, the cruise company said, and will include participation in activities such as English teaching and reforestation efforts. So I guess you can plant trees even.
Wow.
When they pour it, I would imagine, right? You can't do that in the middle of the ocean. But.
Right.
Also, this comes from a blog, topretirements.com. If you haven't been there, maybe an interesting read for you, a number of blogs. A seafaring couple starts Hands Across the Sea charity and retirement. So this is a sea theme since I went on a cruise, obviously, it's in my mind. And at first they said it didn't sink in that they were sailing their new 46-foot boat, Hands Across the Sea, until, back in 2007, they'd wrapped up their careers, sold their home in Massachusetts, stored provisions, sold their cars, found a home for their cat, and decided to just live on this boat and do charitable acts across the world. They said that it felt like a miracle. This is actually written by the admin, they said. It's under the category Adventurous Retirement. So this couple, they left the suburbia, home insurance, property taxes, traffic, mowing the lawn, blizzards, consumerism, roar of the median, dogs barking, and so on and so forth, for a second life with an open horizon promising equal measures of freedom and challenge to sail across the sea as a 501c3 corporation to benefit the lives of those people that they come in contact with. So really an interesting story. So I encourage you to read it when you get a chance. So just, a couple of points from that. Your dreams are what matter. My job as a financial planner professional is to help you do what it is that you want to have done, but better. My goals are your goals. My dreams are not necessarily your dreams, and I know that. I understand that. And so when we sit down together, we and I work with my clients. I want you and all of my clients to be able to achieve your dreams and your goals. And if it's sailing across the sea, then so be it. Real quick, we've got a couple of seminars coming up next week. We're pretty booked. But then again, we've got Maggiano's coming up.
We do, yes. So next week is at Zed's, but again, like you said, we're booked. Our next one is August the 11th and the 13th at Maggiano's over at the Domain. So to RSVP for that, just call our toll-free number at 800-769-1614, or you can also go to our events tab on our website at fortwm.com.
We want to thank you for listening and sharing our show here, Retirement Journey, with your friends and family, liking us on Facebook. We're growing leaps and bounds. We're getting a lot of traction with this show. Hopefully it's entertaining and brightening your day, giving you some good resources and knowledge. We want to thank Eric Scott from Eric Scott Financial for coming on today and talking about his book. And again, you can contact us. We'll give you a copy of his book. Next week, deciding when to claim Social Security benefits is one of the most important financial decisions you ever will make. For many years, the conventional wisdom was to claim Social Security benefits as early as possible, which meant at age 62. This is probably not your best decision. Listen next week to hear Brian Doherty reveal his groundbreaking Social Security strategy as we discuss Getting Paid to Wait, his book. So we'll see you next week, same time, same channel, 12:30 to 1:30. Have a great week, Austin. And again, this is Justin Fort, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370.